the ocean's apex predator that became the prey. The ocean is not empty. It only appears that way from the surface. Beneath the waves exists a world older than human memory, a world that has survived mass extinctions, shifting continents, and millions of years of silent evolution. It is a place where survival is not about strength alone, but adaptation, patience, and secrecy. Despite our satellites, submarines, and sonar systems, humanity has explored less than 5% of the ocean. The rest remains unseen, unmapped, unchallenged. And every so often, the ocean reminds us of that fact. Not with noise, not with warning, but with disappearance. The Queen of the Coast. In the early 2000s, marine researchers along the southern coast of Australia were studying one of the ocean's most feared predators, the great white shark. This was not a casual operation. Great white sharks are powerful, intelligent, and notoriously difficult to track. Tagging one requires precision, courage, and perfect timing. Most attempts fail. Some end dangerously. But in 2003, the team succeeded. They tagged an adult female great white, nearly 9 meters long, muscular, and in perfect health. She was massive, dominant, and unmistakably at the top of her food chain. The researchers named her Alpha. The name was not symbolic, it was descriptive. Alpha was not hunted. Alpha was the hunter. For months, the tracking device sent back data: location, depth, water temperature, movement patterns. Everything was normal, predictable, reassuring. Alpha patrolled the coastline like a ruler surveying her domain. Until one night, everything changed. A dive that made no sense. At exactly 4 a.m., the tracking data recorded something that stunned the research team. Alpha suddenly accelerated. Not forward, downward. She plunged at an extreme speed toward the edge of the continental shelf, far faster than great white sharks normally descend. Within minutes, she reached a depth of over 500 meters. This alone was unusual. Great whites do dive deep, but not like this. Not suddenly, not violently. Then came the detail that changed everything. The water temperature surrounding the tracker changed instantly. From the cold depths of the ocean to warmth. Not surface warmth, not sunlight warmth. Body heat. Within seconds. To the researchers, the implication was chilling. The tracker was no longer in open water. It was inside something alive. Inside the hunter. Great white sharks are apex predators. Adult great whites have no natural enemies. Orcas occasionally hunt them, but such encounters are rare, strategic, and well documented. This situation was different. Alpha had not fled. She had not surfaced. She had not escaped. She had been taken, rapidly and completely, by something capable of overpowering a fully grown great white shark in open water. And whatever it was large enough to swallow the tracking device whole. The tracker continued to transmit data for days. The temperature remained consistently warm. The depth fluctuated. The movement pattern was steady and controlled. This was not random. This was digestion. After several days, the signal stopped. Months later, the tracker washed ashore, empty. Alpha was never seen again. The questions scientists could not ignore. The marine biology community was divided. Some suggested the tracker had malfunctioned. Others argued it could have detached and been swallowed by a different animal. But the data refused to cooperate with those explanations. Detached trackers do not dive aggressively. Detached trackers do not record body heat. Detached trackers do not remain inside a moving organism for days. The simplest explanation was also the most disturbing. Something in the ocean had hunted and consumed a great white shark. But what? The known possibilities. Only a handful of marine animals are large enough to even challenge a great white. Orcas are intelligent, cooperative hunters, capable of stunning precision. But orcas typically hunt in pods, leave clear injury patterns, and remain near the surface. Alpha's dive was too deep, too fast, and too solitary. Another great white? Cannibalism does occur in sharks, but to overpower an adult female of Alpha's size, the attacker would have needed to be significantly larger, perhaps one of the largest great whites ever recorded. Such a shark would be impossible to miss, and yet it was never seen. The theory that refused to die. Years later, a new hypothesis emerged, one that researchers were hesitant to speak aloud. What if Alpha wasn't killed by something we recognize? The ocean's deepest regions are not empty. They are simply inaccessible. At depths beyond human reach, pressure crushes steel, light disappears, and silence dominates. Life there follows different rules. Gigantism is common. Slow metabolism, extreme patience. Could something ancient, something rarely seen, have risen from the deep? There was no proof, only absence. And sometimes, absence is louder than evidence. When the ocean sends a message. Alpha's disappearance was not an isolated mystery. Around the world, similar patterns began to surface. Not attacks, not sightings, disappearances. Tags lost in impossible ways. Animals vanishing mid-tracking. Data that ended abruptly, as if swallowed by the deep itself. The ocean was not revealing its secrets. It was removing them. A pattern emerges. Marine researchers began noticing a troubling pattern. The deeper the dive, the fewer the answers. Creatures that entered certain zones simply did not return. And when something did return, when the ocean allowed evidence to surface, it was never intact, never complete, and never explained. A warning, not a story. The disappearance of Alpha forced scientists to confront a difficult truth. Our understanding of the ocean is based on fragments, on what rises to the surface, on what survives long enough to be observed. But the ocean does not owe us explanations. It only reveals what it chooses. And sometimes, what it chooses to reveal is fear. If a great white shark, one of the most efficient predators ever evolved, can be hunted without a trace, then the hierarchy of the ocean is not what we think it is. And the creatures we call apex may only rule the surface. Chapter Transition Hook. In the next chapter, we leave the deep sea behind. Because when the ocean's secrets rise onto land, torn, altered, and unrecognizable, they raise questions no depth can hide. What happens when the ocean sends something back? When the ocean returns the dead. The ocean rarely explains itself. Most of its secrets remain hidden beneath layers of darkness, pressure, and time. But on rare occasions, the sea does something unexpected. It gives something back. Not gently, not clearly, but violently, as if torn from a world humans were never meant to see. These are not discoveries made by scientists in submarines or laboratories. They are found by accident, by fishermen, by villagers, by people walking along a beach, who suddenly realize they are not alone. A shoreline that changed everything. In early 2015, residents along a remote stretch of Russia's eastern coastline noticed something unusual. Something large had washed ashore. At first, it was difficult to tell what it was. The tide had dragged it onto the beach and partially buried it in sand. From a distance, it looked like debris, perhaps driftwood. But as people moved closer, the details became impossible to ignore. This was not wood. It was flesh. The Russian beach carcass. The creature measured over 11 feet in length. Its body was torn open. Blood stained the sand beneath it. Bones protruded through shredded tissue. And most disturbing of all, parts of the body appeared to be covered in fur. That single detail would ignite global debate. Marine animals do not have fur. At least, not like this. Photographs spread quickly across the internet. Scientists were contacted. Theories began to form almost immediately. Some experts suggested it was a rare species of dolphin. Others proposed it could be a whale calf. But none of the explanations fully fit. The size was unusual, the condition was extreme, and the fur refused to make sense. When science hesitates. Marine mammals such as whales and dolphins are sometimes born with hair, but they lose it shortly after birth. This explanation was offered as a possible answer, but it raised another question. If this creature was a calf, why was it so large? And why would a newborn end up in such a remote, freezing location, far outside the usual habitats of animals that size? The water temperatures in that region are notoriously cold. Most large marine mammals do not thrive there. Which led to another possibility. Perhaps the creature did not belong there at all. Carried by the ocean. Ocean currents are powerful. They move heat, nutrients, and sometimes bodies. Some researchers suggested the carcass may have originated in warmer waters and been carried north by shifting currents, only to die when exposed to colder temperatures. It was a reasonable explanation, but there was a problem. No DNA results were released. If samples were taken, they were never made public. No final identification was confirmed. The case faded quietly, unresolved. And once again, the ocean kept its answer. Not an isolated incident. This was not the first time a mysterious creature had washed ashore, and it would not be the last. In 2013, thousands of miles away, something even larger appeared. This time on the coast of New Zealand. The location was known as the Bay of Plenty, a region familiar with whale strandings and marine carcasses. But this was different. This was bigger. The giant beneath the sand. At first, only part of the body was visible. A massive head, a long, smooth form buried deep beneath the beach, and a large dorsal fin rising from the sand. The exposed portion alone measured nearly 30 feet. Marine biologists were called to the scene. Based on the dorsal fin, some believed it was an orca, also known as a killer whale. The fin shape was similar, but the body told a different story. A shape that didn't match. Even in advanced decomposition, certain features remain identifiable. Jaw structure, skull proportions, bone alignment, and this creature's jaw was wrong. Too narrow, too elongated. Orcas have wide, powerful jaws built for hunting seals and large prey. This specimen did not match that anatomy. The decomposition made identification difficult, perhaps intentionally so. Nature erases evidence quickly. The longer a body remains exposed, the less truth it carries. Whale or something else? Another theory suggested it could be a previously undocumented species of whale. After all, new whale species have been identified before, even in modern times. But if that were the case, why had it never been seen alive? Why only in death? And why only partially intact? Some observers raised a more unsettling possibility, that the creature was not meant to surface, that it belonged to depths far below human observation, and something had forced it upward. The ocean's refusal to clarify. In both cases, Russia and New Zealand, the pattern was the same. A large marine creature appears. Experts debate. No conclusion is reached. The body disappears. Sometimes through burial, sometimes through decay, sometimes through quiet removal. And then, silence. No press release, no final report, no answers. The ocean does not clarify its mistakes. Why we only see them dead. There is a troubling reality in marine biology. Most deep-sea creatures are never observed alive. Not because they are rare, but because they live where humans cannot. Extreme pressure, no light, crushing depths. If a deep-sea organism appears on land, something has already gone wrong. Either it was dying, or it was forced out. When the deep meets the surface. The transition from deep ocean to surface is violent. Pressure changes alone can rupture organs, distort tissue, and destroy recognizable anatomy. What washes ashore may no longer resemble what it once was. Which gives skeptics an easy explanation. Just a whale, just a dolphin, just decomposition. But those explanations depend on certainty, and certainty is exactly what is missing. Patterns hidden in plain sight. When researchers reviewed decades of beaching reports, a pattern began to emerge. Many unexplained carcasses shared similarities. Extreme size, severe tissue damage, inconclusive identification, locations near deep ocean trenches or shelves. These were not random beaches. They were gateways. Places where the deep ocean rises sharply toward land. What the ocean does not want seen. If there are creatures living at extreme depths, creatures adapted to pressure, darkness, and isolation, they would not survive long at the surface. Their bodies would fail quickly. Evidence would degrade. And by the time humans arrived, the truth would already be lost. Perhaps that is why the ocean only allows us glimpses, fragments. Enough to ask questions, not enough to answer them. Fear disguised as curiosity. It is easy to dismiss these mysteries as internet exaggeration, but scientists are not immune to curiosity. Privately, many admit something unsettling. There are too many unknowns, too many anomalies, too many cases closed without explanation. And the deeper the mystery, the quieter the conclusions. The silence of the experts. Marine biologists are trained to rely on data, measurements, DNA, repeatable observation. But the ocean does not operate on human timelines. Sometimes the evidence disappears before it can be studied. Sometimes the body is all that remains. And sometimes not even that. The question that lingers. If these creatures were known, fully documented, and easily explained, why does the ocean keep returning them broken? Why not whole? Why not alive? Transition to the final mystery. There is one final case where the ocean did not return a body at all. Only a sound, a signal, a voice calling through the deep, unanswered. And it may be the most haunting mystery of all. Because whatever is making that sound is still out there, alive, listening. The call that no one answers. Some mysteries leave behind bodies. Others leave behind destruction. But the most unsettling mysteries leave behind nothing at all. No shape, no shadow, no physical proof. Only a sound. A signal from the deep. In 1989, while monitoring underwater acoustics in the Pacific Ocean, scientists detected something unexpected. A sound. It was powerful, low, and unmistakably alive. At first, researchers assumed it belonged to a known whale species. After all, the ocean is filled with vocal animals, many of them capable of producing long-distance calls. But when analysts measured the frequency, confusion set in. The sound was recorded at 52 hertz. That number would change everything. Why 52 hertz matters. Whales communicate using specific frequency ranges. Blue whales, the largest animals to have ever existed, typically vocalize between 10 and 39 hertz. Fin whales call at around 20 hertz. But 52 hertz? That frequency did not match any known species. It was too high, too isolated, too alone. And yet, it was consistent. The sound repeated year after year, always moving, always searching, the loneliest call on Earth. Scientists began tracking the signal annually. The sound migrated across the Pacific Ocean, following patterns similar to whale migrations, yet never overlapping with known populations. It travelled alone. And no other creature ever responded. The media eventually gave it a name: the 52 hertz whale, the loneliest whale in the world. A voice without an answer. If the sound does come from a whale, and many scientists believe it does, then something heartbreaking becomes clear. This creature is calling out, but no one can hear it. Its frequency exists outside the communication range of other whales, which means it may spend its entire life speaking into silence, calling, listening, and never receiving an answer. Could it be something else? Not all researchers are convinced it is a whale. Some suggest it could be a hybrid, perhaps a mix between two species, producing an abnormal call. Others propose deformity. But there is another theory, one scientists hesitate to voice publicly. What if it is not a known species at all? The unseen inhabitants of the deep. The deep ocean is vast beyond comprehension. It contains trenches deeper than Mount Everest is tall, regions where sunlight has never reached, places where life evolves under pressures so intense that bones dissolve and flesh becomes gelatinous. Creatures there are not built for our world, and if one of them ventured upward, it might never be seen, only heard. A sound that changes over time. One detail about the 52 Hz signal is particularly unsettling. Over decades of observation, researchers notice the sound has changed. It has deepened, gradually, just as a whale's voice deepens with age. Whatever is making the sound is growing older, which means it is not a recording, not an echo, not a machine. It is alive. Listening without seeing. Advanced technology has searched for the source. Submarines, sonar arrays, deep-sea microphones. Nothing has ever been visually confirmed. The ocean gives no shape to the sound, only direction and distance. A documentary born from silence. The mystery became so compelling that a documentary project was launched to search for the source of the sound. The project was funded publicly, supported by scientists, oceanographers, and private donors. Even a famous environmental advocate contributed to the effort. The team set out into the Pacific, following the call. But, like every attempt before it, the ocean offered no answers, only echoes. When sound is all that remains. Imagine calling out for decades, never hearing a reply, never knowing if anyone is listening. If the 52 Hz signal belongs to a single creature, then it may represent the rarest form of isolation on Earth, a species of one, or perhaps the last of its kind. Another signal from the abyss. But the 52 Hz call is not the only mystery hidden in the deep. In the early 2000s, scientists studying life near the Mariana Trench conducted a routine experiment. They lowered a baited camera system more than a mile beneath the surface, hoping to observe deep-sea scavengers. The footage began as expected. Small creatures, unfamiliar fish, shadows moving slowly through darkness. Then everything scattered. The shape that should not exist. A massive silhouette entered the frame. Its size was difficult to estimate. There were no reference points. But based on comparison with known species, researchers estimated the creature's length at 30 to 50 feet. For context, the largest confirmed shark ever recorded measured 37 feet. If this estimate was correct, this creature exceeded it. The shark that rewrote the records. The animal moved with confidence, no hesitation, no fear. Other sharks fled. Whatever this was, it was dominant. The footage was brief, just enough to ask questions, not enough to provide answers. Ancient predator or living legend? Speculation erupted. Some suggested it could be an unusually large Pacific sleeper shark, a species known to inhabit deep waters. But even sleeper sharks have limits. Others whispered a name long dismissed by science, a creature believed to have vanished millions of years ago. The megalodon, a predator so large it once ruled the ancient seas. Most scientists reject the idea outright, but the ocean has surprised us before. The problem with certainty. Every time humanity believes it understands the ocean, something happens to challenge that belief. A predator disappears. A body washes ashore. A sound echoes unanswered. The deeper we look, the less confident we become. A planet we barely know. We explore space with confidence. We map distant planets. But our own oceans remain mostly untouched, unseen, unmeasured, and perhaps intentionally hidden. What if we're not at the top? Humanity likes to believe it understands its place in nature, but the ocean does not recognize hierarchy. It does not care about names, theories, or classifications. It only operates on survival. And if something exists down there, something larger, older, and more patient than us, it does not need to reveal itself. We are the visitors. The final question. Are these mysteries simply gaps in our knowledge? Or are they warnings? Signs that our planet still holds powers beyond our control and beyond our understanding. Because if the loneliest sound on Earth is still calling, and if something in the deep can hunt a great white shark, then the greatest mystery is not what lives in the ocean, it's how little we are meant to see.